Hey everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Bit of a weird bottom forming here, I think. Been looking at a few things just a little bit differently this morning. Just get a feel for something. First thing I'll point out is BTC USD longs. Now, we've actually started to see another dip. Now, if you remember, or if you're watching this channel, over the last few weeks, we've sort of been looking at this dip here, thinking, okay, it hasn't, like we kind of expected it to lead to another more downside, because typically that's what we got. We got a small drop and then an increase in the BTC longs as the price was dropping. What we've seen instead is a little bit different. We're actually seeing another dip as we're coming back down, but I actually think this is more akin to what we see when things are actually pumping. So this has been an accumulation period, pretty well through this whole sideways market. But once they accumulate, they tend to hold until price starts going up and then they drop. So this here was a big drop in longs because people started taking profit when they saw profit on the table. Right, the big guys are taking some profits as the thing goes up. Another sort of accumulation zone, a little bit, choppy sideways shit. And then once they saw another pump, they were taking profit. And similar sort of dip and then another dip. So I think we've got to the point where they've bought everything they plan on buying for this next pump, and they're just waiting to start to take profits once we break to new highs. This was the first little take profit, taking something off the table for all the longs they bought on the way down here. Obviously, they would have been in profit there. But now, if we actually see this keep dropping, it will suggest that we are going to have another big pump. Okay. So I was a little bit concerned about seeing this not really pick up with a heap more accumulation like we have had previously. So the fact that we didn't get this straight away when we did pull back is a little concerning, but I have a feeling that that's just because they're going to start taking profit as we come on the way up. So what we want to be looking out for the next top is basically more sideways, so it stops dropping and it'll go sideways for a little bit. And then once we actually see this start to ramp up again, you're probably getting close to the bottom. All right. And then it's probably time for another pump. We just got to be careful that, it is the next pump that's coming. So it's kind of akin to this over, where were we on the run up? So not as clean data here, but as you can see, they accumulated throughout the lows. And then as it started to increase, the longs actually drop off. Started to pick back up again, got towards the top, and they started to drop off. So I think that's what's happening here. It would make sense if we are going to keep going to the upside. I just wanted to concentrate on that for a little bit to start with. The Bitcoin itself, though, the chart, I mean, this looks pretty bad. Obviously, we don't typically dip too far below the 13 EMA on these moves to the upside. However, there's a chance that this candle actually closes above that 13 EMA today. It'll be a wicked looking hammer if it does. But we did hit some pretty good levels today. I was kind of expecting 67,200, but it obviously hasn't got to that point. Now, stochastic momentum is coming down still, but it's not uncommon to see bounces around the middle, around the zero level on your stochastic momentum. Obviously, you saw it to the downside here, went a little bit deeper there. And it is putting in a divergence here. So it'll be lower low on the stochastic momentum, but higher low on price action. That would typically be a bullish setup. Okay. So again, bounce around the middle, bounce around the middle. Some of these only led to fairly short bounces, but others have led to pretty decent ones. So not uncommon to turn around here, but I think it needs to turn in the next couple of days, like today or tomorrow, really, because if this keeps coming down, then I think the 64,400 is still in play. I mean, I still think that was the retest of the breakout. This is more of a retest of this level breakout. We have come back almost into that value area high. That's that was the confluence that I was looking at, 67,200. But then on the liquidation levels, there was a pretty good liquidation level there as well. 1 month. Yeah, I mean 67,400, 67,200. There was a fair chunk there, and most of the stuff below that came in a little bit later, whereas the 67,200 level came in pretty close to when it just started pumping. I mean, it's not a bad level to have hit and to bounce off. I just kind of expected a little bit more to the downside. Doesn't have to get to those price targets. That's why if you've got shorts that you're running or longs in crypto, you take profit early. The amount of times that it's missed my targets by freaking $20 and $5 and stuff like that is too annoying. So I've learned to take profit a little bit earlier. So looking shorter time frames, sort of 24 hours, took a pretty good level there. There was a fair bit of liquidations in that area. This here, these guys were pretty ballsy putting that those orders in there. Pretty surprised it didn't actually take that level as well. It might have, or that order might have actually they've taken it off the table, like taken profit on it before it hit it. Actually taken a loss on it before it hit the liquidation level. But it looks like it's hungry for this level, 69,200 now. Obviously, it's taken that order, hasn't taken this chunk in here. I think that'll be interesting to see if it goes for it now or to see whether we come back down a little bit further, take out some of this. But the the money that has come into the market over this dip on the weekend hasn't been huge. One thing though, looking at volume leaders, this is showing sort of the 5 largest trades over the last week. And good thing about these charts, and thanks to FX Evolution, for the first time I saw them was on his channel. And just got a subscription today to the crypto ones. So $10 a month. It's pretty good data. So this is the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. And what you're looking at here, so dark pools are basically institutions trading between themselves. We don't have access to that as retail traders, whereas the blue ones are they're on exchanges that any retailer can access as well. So fairly chunky transaction here. I think that's like the 7th largest transaction on this particular ticker. I think that's how they're ranked. So a little bit of taking profit towards the top here. That was obviously, well, that was most likely a buy. That's probably a buy as well. You can kind of see it after the price action, but what you're looking for is you're looking for big orders at tops and bottoms. So after a big increase, you're looking for a big order, and that probably is going to signal a downside move. So looking at that, it looks like we might be pretty close to the bottom here. Second to load. Why isn't that loading? There we go. Yeah, so a couple of decent ones in here. That was probably a little buy. Yeah. Would have liked to see a little bit more around here, but you know, it is what it is. Seems like a pretty good bottoming signal there. I had a look at some of the others. So Coin last week also got some pretty big orders towards the bottom. Obviously, earnings didn't hit well for Coinbase. They got slammed a bit after that, but certainly some smart people, I think, are probably picking up the dip there. So these charts can be pretty useful at just seeing, another confluence is, have we hit the bottom or not? Obviously, I like CoinAnk as well for this. Pretty good bottoming signal there. And we've got that second bottom that we commonly see. For those that have been watching this for a while with me, we tend to see a really solid bottoming signal, and then you get a secondary dip after that. Got the same here. Bottoming signal. This one didn't come back down past it, but came back down. But then obviously we got these two as well. So 2 sort of bottoming signals there and there. And it's the first dip and the second dip. So short-term bottom looks like it's in. I would expect pullbacks off that 200 EMA. But at this stage, I'm not expecting it to go much lower than that. Interesting that we've been pretty sideways on open interest throughout this whole period. Sort of ever since, like right near the top there, open interest hasn't really dipped too much. It's been a little bounces happening, but nothing major. So, the people that got in around this level seem to be still holding. I mean, some of them probably took a little bit of profit there, to be honest, but There's a lot of open interest that was opened on the way up here and is still open. And obviously, still a lot of people that bought in around the bottom here, and their positions are still open as well. So, still a lot of upside pressure, I think. This pullback is just, it's letting the big guys get in cheaper. So I've closed my short hedge. I actually took out a couple of little ones over the weekend. Just took profit here and there on them. But I've closed out. I'm going to wait for this to play out, see what happens around that 200 EMA on the 15-minute. Again, don't worry too much about that. Still working on that. What we do need, though, I will show that. I'll just not turn the labels off to make it a bit clearer. So, I mean, that's pretty well recovered. The vector candles in here with this wick to the downside. I think like it's looking like a pretty solid bounce here. 100 EMA too, that has actually been a really critical level all the way along here. You can see here, it's struggled to get through the 100 EMA more than it has the 50. I mean, that was a good break and retest of the 50 before the pump to the upside. Break through all of it and a retest of all of it to the downside, but bounce off the 100, bounce off the 100. Didn't quite reach the 100 there, but it never broke through the 100 the whole way down. So the fact that we've pumped through that now, we've definitely cleared the 50. It could pull back into the 50, no doubt about it, but I think this 100 here is the critical level. If we can confirm above that and move away, then it'll be slow going. It'll be choppy. We've still got the 800 above here as well, which is the 200 on the 1 hour. You know, that's the 50 on the 1 hour. It'll take most of the day to sort of push through these unless Bitcoin just goes mental. But that's definitely what we're looking for today. If we can clear these levels, there's how many hours left? 4 hours left on the daily. I think we could actually, the way this is moving off the bottom here, there is a fair chance that we actually close above that 13 EMA. And if we do that, then it's pretty likely that the low is in. And funnily enough, this is the 3rd of November. That was sort of commonly the latest, or as like the 2nd and 3rd of November, the analysis the Crown did on which day in November found the lows, particularly in election years, it was sort of tended to be around the 2nd to 3rd of November. So that would match up with that stat. I mean, we don't have to close above the 13. I'd be more comfortable if we do. What's it at? 69, a bit over 69, and we're at 68,500. That's certainly doable for Bitcoin. And it's still on low volume, so we won't be, unless huge volume comes in, this won't be a vector candle, which is kind of what you want to see. You don't really want to see a big wick to the downside on a vector candle before you move to the upside. It's just nasty. That one there still scares me a little bit. But you can see there, if you do tend to get that, you do tend to get pullbacks into it. Okay. Tend to want to see it recovered before you move to the upside. All right. So it could still be kind of, I don't necessarily think it'll be straight up from here, but it's looking pretty reasonable for a bottom, and it might be a couple of inside days, like a couple of sideways, small sort of price action days, or it could just go straight up. But this is definitely, if you're DCAing, it's not a bad DCA level. If we break below this, like if it just pulls right back down, then obviously you got the 50 EMA on the daily. That would be a good level. That would recover the rest of this wick. But by that stage, you're starting to eye off the 64,400 as well, which I think is a pretty critical level. All right. Just looking at Trader's Reality stuff. He's got a wick to the downside there, like a vector candle. I'm using a different vector candle calculation now. Don't really know which one's better yet, to be honest. But yeah, it's obviously hit the M1 level. You got the daily open and stuff, 69,300. Yeah, it's going to be a fair bit of work, and I think a fair bit of bouncing around to chop up through all this overhead resistance. But obviously, Bitcoin can do that if it wants to. The other thing to look at is Ethereum. So just on CC's indicator, pretty good demand level there for Ethereum. Yeah, it's not looking good, but at the same time, it's obviously going to try and freak people out as well. It's recovering. It's basically recovered that wick there to the downside. I think this is a pretty good level for some support on Ethereum as well. I'll actually have a look at that on the longer time frames in a second. That one, yeah, not a fan of that indicator. I don't know why I keep having it up there. Yeah, it looks like if this can hold this 100, then I would expect a bounce to the upside here. It's kind of in no man land with my Bollinger Bands too, so kind of expect it to push up a little bit, which would hit that 200, and then a pullback would be on the cards there. All right, let's have a look at Ethereum on the longer time frame. So yeah, that's pretty well recovered that daily vector wick to the downside there. I think that's a fair level. We can just going to get rid of that. That's pretty well hit our box there. Obviously, it's a little bit iffy with the downside momentum here, but it's kind of holding a trend line there as well, actually. So maybe another, if we have another sort of small inside day here, like we don't really have to break below or anything, but if we don't go too high up, that'll actually turn around pretty well on that line. So interesting level there for Ethereum as well. Let's have a look what news we got. So services PMI, obviously the election, interest rate decision on the 8th, so Thursday my time. That'll be an interesting one as well, having the election and then the interest rate decision so close together. Consumer sentiment, I'm not expecting that to be anything huge in terms of moving the markets. Interest rate decision will be the big one. So yeah, Ethereum's at a pretty critical level as well. Sol, this is what we drew up the other day. So good sort of double W pattern here forming. Sol's pretty well touched the 50 EMA there as well, right at the level of this middle part of the W. So that would be a really good spot for Sol to bounce. Like really good spot. Wonder if it's forming. Yeah, it's kind of broken below that, but volatility is increasing as well. So big pump to the upside on Sol, could actually see pretty major move. I might actually shift a little bit into Sol. I see that turnaround on the shorter time frames. Yeah, good little pattern forming here. Again, not great having a vector down here. It's pulling back before it got through the 50 EMA as well, which I'm not a huge fan of, but Sol might just have a little bit longer to come out of this bottom. So what you want to see is a push through, even up into the 200, and then a pull back into this level, and then upside move. Doesn't have to do that exactly, but you kind of want this to be a double bottom at least, which would see, I mean, if you count this as a double bottom, that should break you through the 200 EMA on the 15-minute, which should be relatively bullish for Sol. Most of these too, like this little indicator here that I got, hasn't been tuned for this yet. I'm still working on the code in the background, but in general, this is like a smooth RSI with moving bands around the RSI. So rather than your 30 and your 70 level, these bands become your overbought, oversold level. As you can see there, oversold, cut back inside, and it's forming a bottom. But what I'm kind of interested in is, are these resetting to the downside? So this mid band here, if it's a decent amount on the underside of this minus 50 level, which is the middle of this particular indicator, it means we've got plenty of upside room to move. Same on the shorter time frames. Obviously, it bounces around more on the shorter time frame. This is just a shorter look back length on it. But yeah, we're definitely at pretty good bottoming levels here. I'd call that a divergence too, to be honest. That turnaround there for this bottom here happened way higher than this bottom here. So I'm expecting upside. I think that push to the upside up into that 200 level will probably see a turnaround and just a pullback. But in general, I think pullback should be met with buying demand there. So Sol's looking okay, which we want to see. We kind of want to see these other alts finding bottoms. I have a BTCC account that I just started the other day and threw a couple $100 in it. And I just bought a heap of shit coins. I just hedged it actually. I was buying Brett up around here. So you can thank me for if the market turns around here that I just put a hedge on it. But yeah, I think we're bottoming on most of these. The thing that I was looking at was most of the alts hadn't really dropped as much as Bitcoin until this last flush as well. So I think we've finally freaked everyone out enough. Geez, I hope Carve does that again. That'll be good. Starting to see bottoming patterns on a lot of these alts that are Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good signs here. To be honest with you, if you want to dabble in an alt, Nero OTC seems to be getting a fair bit of interest and pumps pretty hard, like just getting back up to their nearly 50% move here. And that's nothing compared to where it's been. So it's a fairly new coin. That's one of the ones that I will be probably just slipping some dollars into over the next couple of months. Pepe is interesting. It looked like it was going to flush a bit further, but it's bounced. So it had a big trend line on it, I think. Might come a little bit lower. If we see Bitcoin sort of bouncing around a little bit over the next few days, some of these will probably just flush a little bit more. But looking like pretty decent bottoming signals on some of these at good levels, like decent trading sort of support level around here. That's a pretty good pattern as well. Litecoin, obviously it's flush, but it's looking like basing as well. Good. Dot. Yeah, Dot's not getting much love this round. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the 61.8 level, struggling to get through that, but it is pulling back into this W level here as well. So you want this pattern to hold. If this pattern doesn't hold and we slip through the 67,200 level, then I'll be looking at more downside, to be honest. That will not look good, but for the time being, it's a little disappointing. It didn't close above that 100 EMA there. We'll see how it goes at the 50. We do have the mid band of the Bollingers here as well. Kind of, there's not really a trade here at the moment, but if we bounce sort of either from here or anywhere between here and the 50 EMA, to be honest, then it should be a good confirmation to the upside. It's kind of a nothing level there as well. You'd expect it to come higher up into this vector. So I think it's just a little fake out at the moment. All right. I think that's about it. Ethereum's bouncing a little harder than Bitcoin is at the moment. Bitcoin dominance pulling back a little. Not a bad thing. Jesus. Holy shit. Hang on. Let's go over to the daily and go ETH long. So this is people that are trading the ETH BTC pair on Bitfinex. They have been accumulating ETH versus BTC for a long time. Holy crap. Wow. I'd expect ETH to make a pretty massive move against BTC at some stage. That's pretty major. have a look at it. Where's that? That's, yeah, the lead up to the pump. Just want to overlay BTC on that. So yeah, people are loading up this way as well. And obviously, as BTC was hitting a high, they started to unload and then reload again as BTC was coming up. Wow, that's pretty substantial movements on that pair. Interesting accumulation of ETH versus BTC. Again, I don't see that as particularly bearish at all. In fact, yeah, I'd expect Ethereum to have a run once we get a decent run on Bitcoin, probably once we hit about that 80K level, Ethereum's probably going to explode. All right, I think that'll do for today. Hope that was useful. Yeah, expecting to not really get back below this, to be honest. 67,500. If we fall through 67,200 and like close a decent period below that, then 64,400 is definitely on the cards. But as I said, not expecting that at this stage. I think I covered most of these on after the Friday close anyway. I think most of them are TLT pulling back more is kind of interesting. High yield bonds, yeah, we've recovered that vector there now. The bonds may not like the market. This one here is suggesting it's not as bad as what it might look on other indicators. So yeah, I'm not super concerned about this at the moment. But it needs to kind of bounce pretty soon too, I would say. Going to be an interesting couple of days before the election. A little bit choppy, would be expected. So, but it's just whether Bitcoin's found its bottom yet or not. And I'd say chances are it has. All right. Catch you later.